and over the moon.
Welcome to the Landing Strip with Nick Lynham and Mikey Garcia, presented by From Financial.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What a night. We talked about this Tuesday. This was going to be a big one. For the Tank ambitions, tonight was going to be huge. And the Winnipeg Jets, as Jordy Angus says over in the chat, says, guys, I think the Jets might be bad. This was a massive result for the Winnipeg Jets and the lottery pick ambitions. Many of you that tune in are along for the Tank Commander ride towards. This was near flawless. Listen to this. The Winnipeg Jets get doubled up by the New York Rangers. And then we see a near flawless out-of-town scoreboard. This is beautiful. 14 minutes left. Predators are up 3-1 on the Canucks. Canucks are not coming back. Predators are getting another 2 points. The only loss looks to be the Kraken, who are down 4-1 to Colorado. The San Jose Sharks beat the Bruins 4-2. The Toronto Maple Leafs win 6-4, so they get some gap on the Jets there. Who else do we got here? The Flames beat the Devils 5-4. The Blues beat the Hurricanes 3-1. The Blackhawks come back against the Mammoth and win 3-2 in overtime. And to put the icing on this sweet, sweet Tank cherry on top, we see the debut of the Stanley Shen pair in Buffalo, and watching a contending team starts going and blowing up about the uncertainty of their third pair that we had the misfortune of watching all year. They put up a sub 40 expected goals percentage, -1 at 5-on-5. I know people are looking at this, and I see in the chat thinking Nick's bringing a doozy tonight. Jordy nails it here. You're not going to get a fiery Nick tonight. Jordy says Nick hasn't looked this happy all season. Folks, bottom three is in play for the Winnipeg Jets all of a sudden. When you look at their schedule, they got Colorado on Saturday. They got the Blues in a back-to-back. And everyone's been talking about it, and Chevy talked about it. Oh, our regulation wins keeps us in this. If you look, we should be contending more. Did anyone realize, because I didn't realize till tonight, the Blues have 3 regulation wins on them? They pulled in within a tie with the Jets today. Game at hand, though, for Winnipeg. New York pulls up, tying the Jets at 62 points. Again, a game at hand, though. And Chicago comes up to 61 points, 1 point behind. Jets have a game at hand. When we're looking at game at hands with this Winnipeg team, I'm not betting on them getting points. We are in this race, folks. This playoff push, it died the last 2 games. I'm sorry. We're looking at this. What's the wild card today? You're chasing 5 teams or 4 teams, and everyone's talking about, oh, at least Seattle didn't get a point last time. Everyone else did. They are now 6 points back of San Jose, who is in that spot. San Jose's played 1 less game than Winnipeg. Seattle ahead of them by 5. Seattle's played 1 less game. LA ahead of them by 5. Has played the same amount of games. And now Nashville ahead of them by 4. Same amount of games. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. This thing's cooked. We're in this race, folks. Let's get into it. Lot to talk about. I'm thrilled. Mikey, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. That's a near perfect out-of-town scoreboard if you actually care about the long-term health of the Winnipeg Jets and not just your short-term feelings. And you know what? On a night like tonight, as Maple Bacon 82 on YouTube says, don't stop. So let's clear our lungs. Let's throw our head back. Let's sing our song because it's Tank time, baby.
Don't stop thinking about tomorrow. Don't stop. It'll soon be here.
It'll soon be here.
It will soon be here. I was starting to get a little nervous the way that we'd been running tankathon runs at the end of shows, not getting some high picks. They had won a few games, starting to creep into that middle, but these last 2 losses are really putting the Jets kind of where they need to be. Again, like I said, long term, if you care about the health of this team, you should be hoping for a low spot in the standings to get that high pick. And yeah, really couldn't have asked for more tonight.
Our chat's encouraging me to get in some trouble this week in the media scene, and I might listen to them. We'll see where this goes. Mikey, who is your tank commander on this night where the Winnipeg Jets get doubled up by the Rangers 6-3 when all is said and done?
You know,
I
don't give this guy a lot of tank commander awards. This is going to be, few and far between. But I'm going to go with Connor Hellebuck. Only 11 saves on the night. A lot of them coming off of, some second opportunities, a lot of rebounds and things. But 11 saves. 11 saves? 11 saves from the reigning Hart Trophy Vezina candidate, or not Vezina winner and gold medal winner. 11 saves? I'm sorry. That's I'm going to have to give it to Hellboy for that one.
Yeah, I think it's undisputed tonight. 5 goals on 16 shots. As Neil DeBeck says, the tank commander is a .688 save percentage tonight. It's become quite regular. Obviously, he had the big gold medal game. Clearly showed that he could steal hockey games. That is not happening in Winnipeg around Connor Hellebuck. Yeah, you could talk about. We saw a lot of the shots through the point, get the temps. You're talking about the idea of the rebounds. You're talking about some of that backdoor play where it seems like his tank kind of stalled, or the tank didn't stall. His slide over stalled, and he didn't get all the way over. Connor Hellebuck, it's funny. We talk about this tank. This is about as ethical as it gets, because the funny thing about all this to me, we watched them play the worst game of the year. Q had said in our chat, it was the tank game of the year. And again, a common with Scott Arniel goes back to the same lineup. This is the lineup that this team has to win with. The Winnipeg Jets are trying to win hockey games. This is what the people in charge think is actually quality. That's the best part of all this. It is hilarious at this point. This is as ethical as it gets, and they're going to keep running Connor Hellebuck, who at this point, by my measure, and everyone knows how I think of Connor Hellebuck, we're talking about a weak goal a game lately. And then you put up this night. You know what? I wanted to see Connor get more games. Maybe we just ride this out. Run him to the ground. If you're so convinced you're still in this, keep doing what you're doing. Because we could harp on it. We've pointed it out. We've given Arniel shit. We've given Chevy shit. We've given the best players shit. At the end of the day, great. Great for my motivations. It's sad that you look at an organization like this, 64 games in, still doing the same shit that brought them to the bottom 6, 5, 4, potentially 3 of the league. They want to do it their way? Go ahead. I kind of said today, what was it? What's that song? Dito. I'm pretty sure it's Scott Arniel's main listen. He's not going to wave that white flag. He loves this setup too much.
Dido.
Yes. And tonight, his goalie makes sure to get into the tank. It's a clean sweep in the comments tonight. Rihanna says, tank commander. Arniel for not changing the lineup and sticking with it. We'll get to that in a second, as I just touched on. Real DFE, tank commander. Hellebuck, surprised he hasn't got trade me painted on his mask yet. You got to wonder if things go south here, what he's thinking. As Jordy says, he needs to go. Parmaline says, why is Hellebuck starting 2 straight weeks? It's even more pointless this year to be playing so much. It's working for the tank. Yep. John Chan says, Helly, well-deserving of the tank commander award tonight. Arniel, please keep the lineup status quo. Everyone's on board with Hellebuck and Arniel here tonight. Colin Hall's tank commander of the night for me is Kyle Connor, to give another name. One great sizzle highlight sandwich between some of the most lazy, liable, uninspired, checked out hockey I've seen. Gorgeous goal from Kyle Connor. The top line actually got a shot on net after the first period today.
Yep.
And we see a dangle that looks good on Kyle Connor. Where else should we go here with the tank commanders? Al Camino says, 55 reminds me of an import on every senior team in Manitoba, floating around, taking 90-second shifts and playing no defense. More and more people are talking about it. We got an email from Mike Friesen that we're going to dive into, where that was one of his takeaways. And maybe it's time for us to start clipping these shifts together so people see what we're talking about when we bring this kind of stuff up.
Yep.
It's safe to say a lot of the people contributing in the chat are seeing a lot of the same stuff. They're seeing Connor Hellebuck being the tank commander. They're seeing Scott O'Neil do the same ridiculous shit. Over on Twitch, Choice of TK says, amazing, playing better teams, playing not to lose against teams that can actually score goals doesn't work. That Tampa game looks like a massive outlier. Clearly a team that just didn't show up that night, and we've seen a couple of those this year. Yeah. It is it's one of those nights where I don't even want to dive too much into what happened in the game. We all saw it. The Jets were loose. Defensively, there was gaps. And I didn't find the Rangers that good tonight. I thought this was a poorly played hockey game on both ends here.
Yeah, how could, again, we're talking about a bottom five, two bottom five teams currently in the National Hockey League, right? This wasn't going to be some, great run of hockey. If it was, they wouldn't be fighting to see who's going to be drafting Gavin McKenna. So if you expected some classic tonight, I'm not really too sure what you've been watching the rest of the season with these two clubs. It's at this point, this is the battle for the basement, right? It's the battle for the bottom of the table. Who's going to get the better draft pick? Because if you're looking at this, at one point when the Jets and the Rangers went back to back on one of the goals, I think it was when the 2-2 ones. The broadcast goes, "Wow, that was two playoff goals right there from two teams really fighting for it." Yeah, two bottom five teams really fighting it out here. It's we've watched it all year. This has kind of been their MO. They just were sloppy. They weren't very good. They couldn't execute. Scott O'Neil talked about it. They were coverage goals against. 4 of the 6 goals were all directly in Connor Hellebuck's face. All of them right just in the crease. So it's it was just a bad game by two bottom 6 teams.
We're gonna dive into Rosane, who everyone's excited about. There's one of the goods. These are the good things. We're going to be monitoring Brad Lambert. I thought the fourth line had a really tough night.
Yeah.
We're going to be monitoring Rosane and what he continues to look at like as things go on here. I still have Cole Perfetti in that list and Elias Salmonson in that list. Those are the 4 guys I'm really watching the rest of the year and trying to get a better feel of. But I do see a couple more thoughts on the tank tonight. Turd Ferguson says, I know we're all in on Team Tank here, but seriously, we probably win that game 7-6 in overtime if Shaz Lucic didn't quit on us. Let's get into the new kids, though. I thought this was a night in general, when you watch both what happened in Buffalo tonight and what you saw in Winnipeg, where you see an example, despite the guy behind me tonight. Holy smokes. This guy was trying like hell all 3 periods to get a "We Want Stanley" chant going.
Oh, no.
And he was out on an island.
Oh, little
he
buddy,
tried, though.
Pal.
Oh, right behind me, man.
Look,
all game.
the Sabres don't even want him now. They've played the game with them, and if you go take a quick look on social media with the Sabres fan base right now, they've kind of realized, oh, God, what did we do? Especially with the brutal goal tonight that him and Shen were on the ice for together. A classic goal for that pairing from what we've seen all year. So, oh, little buddy, that's a rough one.
And it's tough because it's only one game. But tonight's a great example of where the Winnipeg Jets truly did get better by subtraction.
Yeah.
When you see what Stanley and Shen look like in Buffalo. And it's what we've seen all year. Anybody that decided trading for a third pair of those two was the answer in a contender, insane. And then on the flip side, we see Jacob Bryson, who you could see why at 5'9", he's actually paved out a career for himself.
Yep.
He gets that puck through, and Rosén, Isak Rosén, gets his first as a Winnipeg Jet, getting to the net front and getting a tip. I thought this was another step forward from Rosén. Obviously nice for him to get that first on the board. Probably takes a bit of the jitters of a guy that's been a bit of a tweener. He gets on the board early in his Winnipeg tenure. What'd you think of Rosén tonight? Jacob Bryson. And what do you think going forward from the duo we get from Buffalo, as Buffalo experienced tonight that the Winnipeg Jets were bad for a reason, playing that pair together quite a bit?
Yeah, it's kind of funny when you take a look at the fact that you've got Schenn and Stanley over in Buffalo doing what they do best, right? Stanley misreading the play, getting to it late and slow, and Schenn having no chance at all of being able to clean up after it. It was wonderful. And then you get to the Jets side of things where they were able to move those guys for positive pieces. Rosén looked, a little bit better again tonight. Each game he's taken a little bit of a step. The speed is there. You got to see the hands out front tipping that puck in, which, again, normally he wants to create off of speed, but the fact that he was able to kind of get in there and tip a puck in shows he's got some versatility to the offensive game there. You can take those guys off of the team, get some positive assets for it, still lose because the club just isn't very good at the moment, and come out overall better, right? As opposed to if you had just sat on those two guys and still lost this game tonight. It was all in all, this was pretty great for that aspect. For Bryson himself, you're right. You can see how he's been able to carve out a spot, only being 5'9". A little bit rough tonight compared to maybe the other game, right? A little bit more in terms of the offensive pressure getting to him. But overall, for a third pairing guy, I thought he was, again, fine. He was serviceable. Better than what they're getting out of what we've traded back across, right? So if you're looking at value. And Rosén is just, he's, again, a little bit more comfortable this game. The speed was on display. We got to see a little bit of the versatility, getting that tipped puck. All positives from the two new guys.
Yeah, no complaints here. Rosén, obviously we've kind of talked about it. The one big question was, did he compete? And you see with the board battles, probably not the most aggressive board battler in the NHL. But to his credit, you get to the net front. Those are hard areas too. He gets to the hard area, gets a stick on it, and gets his first as a Winnipeg Jet. And as someone that's been in his lot of life, where he's been kind of in that quadruple A spot, where he's lit up the AHL for 3 straight years.
Yeah.
But Buffalo has been so loaded in front of him and preferred a different mix in their bottom 6 because there was no room for him in their top 6.
Yep.
That he was kind of in that stuck spot for prospects, right? For him to come over, get in with Winnipeg right away, line mates be damned, and get on the board early, I want to see what that does for him. Because something like that, especially this early, seeing that bit of success when you've had trouble maintaining a job in this league, it could be a bit of a spark for him, given what his careers look like at this point. And then, as Turd Ferguson points out, I did want to get to this play. Turd Ferguson says, was that Rosie that sprang Taser with that breakaway pass?
Yes.
And also, I'm old enough to remember when Taves doesn't miss on breakaways. Yeah, there was a time in Taves' career where he would have been automatic there. But Rosén, with that stretch pass, perfect. Beats all the defenders and stretches Jonathan Taves. Have we seen many Jonathan Taves breakaways?
No.
This year?
No, not too many.
Not so much. And it was Isak Rosén that had the heads-up play to stretch him. I think he's the player outside of Solomonson and where his game continues to develop with his team. I think he's the youngest player or the younger player that I'm most excited about. And I want to see now how he builds off of this and seeing this instant success, seeing what that means for his confidence, seeing what it means for maybe the coach giving him a little bit of trust. We know it's a bit hard to gain when Arneal has his preseason lineup and configuration still in game 63. But I'm excited to see what today means for Isak Rosén and what he could mean to this puzzle moving forward for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, absolutely. The things going in Rosane's favor right now, one is the lack of bodies up front, right? Not a lot of people to take him out of the lineup, even if the line mates he's playing with aren't the ideal line mates. I think we can all still agree that that's not a great line for him to be on overall, but, Arnie's going to Arnie. And just with the, that's the goal scorers are streaky in the NHL, right? Very few guys in the NHL are like consistently one goal every 2 games or one goal every. It's very much generally, you score a few, you get a bunch, and then there's a few games where you don't, and you score a few. So if he's going to be able to start off streaky, start off with getting these bunches in now to get that confidence going, get hopefully some trust with the coaching staff, and we can maybe at least for a few games at some point get to see what he looks like in a top 6 Adam Lowry wing type of role. I think that's the best. Right. I want to see him and Perfetti on the same line together. It's good for the future. It's good for the now. It'd be fun. I just hope we get there with 19-ish games, 18-ish games left to go.
Yeah, we will see where that continues to go. We'll be monitoring that. Hard to disagree with anything you said there. Let's move into the Cole Perfetti line. I think that was a nice transition. Really liked the game from Cole Perfetti, Adam Lowry, and the swaps. You see Velarde sometimes, you see Iafallo sometimes. You see a bit of it. Cole Perfetti gets involved with that assist on the Gabe Velarde goal. Adam Lowry gets the shot on net. And Gabe Velarde, again, net front. That guy is a bit magic. He's got to be in the upper echelon of threats when it comes to just that lower slot with that mix of the size to protect himself and those filthy mitts. Another great goal there. What'd you think of the Cole Perfetti, Adam Lowry, and mostly Gabe Velarde line tonight?
Oh, man, what creativity switching Velarde and Iafallo. I don't know if I ever would have thought of that. It's a good thing we've got professionals running the bench. They were good tonight. They were probably the better line out of all of them tonight. They continue to work well, especially when you have Velarde on that line. It really gives it the finish that it's kind of lacking otherwise. And yeah, Gabe Velarde is so dangerous down low. His hands are incredible. Which we learned on the in the intermission today. That's because he does a lot of Lego, so he really gets the fine motor skills
I did
down.
see that.
So that was pretty cool. I like that as somebody who also still likes to build big Lego sets and shit. That was good. Shout out to him. They were good again tonight. Whether it was Iafallo or whether it was Velarde, they had similar results. It's just crazy that we can't see see what Rosane maybe hopefully looks like on that line one day sooner rather than later. It'd be good.
Hey, we only have room for one swap with the Winnipeg Jets. And even after bad games, you're not allowed to send messages.
We told you at the end of the last game, though, if we told you they were going to come back with the exact same lineup in this one, even though that was the worst performance they'd had all year.
On the downside, despite, this was an interesting one for the Lowry, Cole Perfetti, Gabe Velarde line, because the one downside is they were on for 2 of the goals against, scored the 1. But it felt like to me, watching, and maybe I'm going to have to look back at this one, it did feel like that line won the territorial battle a lot more tonight, and they get dinged on a couple mistakes. But I think for the bulk of the game, they did have a strong one. We did see, in my opinion, a better game from Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, and I guess Alex Iafallo from most of this game on that line. They come away even on the score sheet, so they're still +3 on the year. What'd you think of the top line coming out of last night's game, or last game, where it had to be the most pathetic game we've seen from them?
Yeah, they were fine in terms of the underlying numbers tonight. I don't know if they were overly inspiring outside of Kyle Connor's absolutely sick fucking goal, which was wonderful. Nobody loves a Kyle Connor solo goal like that more than me. I fucking was screaming at the TV. It was wonderful. But yeah, it was what you kind of expected out of them. Minus, I would have honestly expected some more points. I would have expected a Scheifele goal or 2 tonight. He likes feasting on the Rangers usually. And generally, after some pretty abysmal performances, that line usually bounces back. They, at least from a pure points standpoint, they usually like to come out and put a few up. So the fact that there was only the 1 goal, each one of them only comes out of this with 1 point, I'm pretty sure tonight, is honestly, I think, a little disappointing. If you were expecting, wins and the Jets to, rebound and show you that they're still a playoff team, I think you would have wanted more out of that top line, to be honest.
Yeah, that's probably fair because the big one that stands out was the goal, obviously. And we know that group, when you give them time and space, they can create a great pass from Mark Scheifele to find Kyle Connor and ridiculous patience and hands to get there. But it did feel like a night when we do talk about them getting space. I did feel Scheif and Connor freed themselves up more today, but they were also missing on those passes they normally take advantage. Like there was a few times where they had an odd man rush and Mark Scheifele just misses Kyle Connor.
Yep.
Or there'd be a bobble. And we don't normally see that from them. So I think it was a better step. Obviously they get on the score sheet. They're a bit more involved. But I would agree with you on the idea of given where this team wants to be, you'd still want a bit more. I think that's fair.
Yep.
Some thoughts in the chat. I got a question for you on this one. And then I want to get into Dylan DeMelo, who had a big milestone tonight, though has a real tough moment in this one. Without Hellbuck's night, DeMelo might have added some more talk on the Tank Commander stuff. Norm has a few suggestions I'm going to get to. But I did want to point out, you brought up the Gabe intermission thing. Gabe, to me, continues to be like a really down-to-earth NHL player. And I found it funny. So I'd seen the teaser of it. I haven't seen the whole thing yet, being at the game tonight. But I did see this part. And Zero Ghost 8 says, LOL at Gabe not being able to justify to himself buying a $1,000 Lego set after signing the big ticket. I did get a kick out of that.
That was funny. And his answer on it was hilarious. He's like, I can hear my parents, telling me what a bad purchase it is. So he hasn't done it yet, but I think he can probably do that one.
And given what he's opened up with the anxiety and stuff that he's dealt with, something I could relate the last 2 years and what I've kind of gone through.
Yep.
It's cool to see him really embrace those kind of things and go public and talk about them and why he enjoys them and all that stuff.
Hell yeah.
He continues to be a bit of a breath of fresh air for me from a personality standpoint.
Yep, definitely one of the guys where
Holy shit.
the more you learn about him, the more you kind of start liking him.
As Huge Ass Vibes lets us know on Twitch, the Canucks just came back and tied it. So the Canucks are going to get a point. Oh, the Canucks, it doesn't really matter. No one's sinking to that level. But Nashville will move up officially.
Yep.
At least 5 points. And it'll be 6 if they win it in overtime. We'll keep monitoring that. Thank you, Huge Ass Vibes. Did not think they'd have the comeback in them.
Yeah.
I want to talk about DeMelo, though. Has a real tough moment. As Rihanna had pointed out first here, saying, where was it? Melo slipping on that invisible banana peel really sums up the Jets season game. Who else had said it? Ryland Medwick says 700 banana peels for DeMelo tonight. That felt like if we didn't get the help performance we did, that was the individual play that really sealed it. DeMelo out of nowhere falls in mid-ice. And the Rangers are able to go 4-on-2 the other way and end it with a backdoor goal. Unfortunate, because this was a night Dylan DeMelo plays game 700 in the NHL. And he's been here a lot longer than I started to realize when I started looking at this earlier. 700 games. He's played the last parts of at least 7 seasons with the Winnipeg Jets. Despite the tough moment today, what do you think of Dylan DeMelo soldiering on to 700 games? What that kind of means for a guy who's never been like a sexy defender in this league, but he's been the coach's porn guy if we go back to the Paul Maurice days.
Yep.
He was in some big trades. If I'm not mistaken, he was in the Erik Karlsson trade originally, wasn't he?
Ooh,
with Ottawa. And then we get him for a second. One of, in my opinion, Chevy's best trades. Get Dylan DeMelo for a second. He stabilizes. In fact, he even convinces the org at one point that Stanley was better than he was, and Stanley gets protected playing beside DeMelo. And then we see him eventually become Josh Morrissey's long-term partner. Dylan DeMelo, 700 games, 440 in Winnipeg. Give us some thoughts on Dylan DeMelo and his time with the Winnipeg Jets.
So first, yes, he was part of that Erik Karlsson trade. It was in exchange for Chris Tierney, Rudolph Balkers, Dylan DeMelo, and former Sharks draft pick Josh Norris, and a 2020 unprotected first.
Yes.
Quite the haul back then. Yeah,
100%.
it's been quite a run now with DeMelo. It always kind of just feels like, oh no, he just got here, a couple years ago. Except we've been saying that every couple years now, and it's been 6-7 years. It's crazy how fast time goes by. He's like you said, maybe not the sexiest option. Maybe isn't the Norris candidate that Josh Morrissey kind of is. But the thing is, he's played alongside that guy who we've been able to talk about being in the Norris conversation for so long. He's been able to help anchor that top pairing against really tough competition, against the other team's best, more often than not. Is he, does he have some rough nights? Yeah, he has some rough nights. But is he the problem more often than not? No, generally not. He's able to kind of play a quiet game and kind of get through and help Josh Morrissey secure, that top pairing and the 30-ish minutes that Morrissey ends up playing. In terms of, the value that it took to get him was fantastic. 700 games is an incredible milestone. I don't know if you can really say too many bad things about Dylan DeMelo. We talked about his value at the deadline, how a contending team would be more than happy to come along and add him to their right-handed stable. So, yeah, the guy is he's versatile as hell. If you get to a point where Salamonson can maybe join Josh Morrissey on that top pairing, then it gives you a nice piece to play in your bottom four that's been used to playing a hell of a lot higher in the lineup. So, yeah, not a bad night at all. Even with blowing the tire, I felt real bad for him. Even if it wasn't for the Hellebuck 11 save night, I don't even think I would have put DeMelo on for my tank commander just because he blew a tire. That shit happens. I don't put too much harshness on him for it.
I would have went there just because it was the final dagger. When that play happened, I sat there grinning and said, "This one's over." Yeah. That's why I would have went there.
Fair.
I do want to correct myself. This is how highly I value DeMelo. Infinity Comment shutout says DeMelo for a third. I remember that trade. I had said a second in the prelude there, which even if they traded a second, that would have been a home run. A third for what they've gotten out of Dylan DeMelo.
Yeah.
One of Chevy's best works. I'll dive in the chat before giving my thoughts here, as a lot of people have joined in on the DeMelo conversation. Rihanna says, happy Melo hit 700 games. Sad that the invisible banana peel got him. Neil DeBeck says, DeMelo tripped over a left behind by the tank that's rolling through Winnipeg. Oh, this tank's going, folks. We got 18 games here. We got a tough schedule. Rylan Medwick said, he's been solid, not flashy, but he has been dependable, if we are being honest. Real DFE says DeMelo was a great pickup for the Jets. Turd Ferguson says, DeMelo is underappreciated here by a mile. Not as good as he once was, but he's been the best we've had for JMO, and he's done a steady, good job. Ottawa regretted that trade. Al says he's better than Pionk. I tend to agree.
Yep.
And Colin Hall says, I distinctly remember that DeMelo ad because everyone on Jets Twitter, especially the analytically aligned folks, wanted him as he was far and away the best D-man available. And he was one of those underappreciated ones where at that deadline, D are going for first and seconds, and Chevy slides in and gets the dependable one for a third. I'll say this. Obviously, so it's interesting with Dylan DeMelo. He was a big piece, I think, to helping Josh Morrissey unlock Josh Morrissey. We talked about Bones really giving Morrissey the green light, but Dylan DeMelo, especially at the peak of his powers, was that steady presence that really allowed that. He signed for nothing but value deals here, in my opinion, at this point. Now, given where things are, you might want to get off the last couple of his years. But he's been nothing but quality for the Winnipeg Jets, a steady top four D-man. He's probably not, and we've talked about this as being a bit of a problem for the Jets getting to a Stanley Cup level. He's probably not the ideal first pairing defenseman that you want running out with Josh Morrissey, especially come playoffs. But you have that guy as a second or third right D. You're more than ecstatic about what you'd get from him. He's also, of this group of Jets, the first one that's moved here year-round and really set roots in Winnipeg. He's clearly been part of that underlayer of the leadership group. I've heard nothing but good things about Dylan DeMelo and what he's meant to a lot of guys here. I think this was one of, despite a lot of my criticisms, this was one of those hits for Kevin Cheveldayoff. And he's the type of guy, it's kind of funny, right? We've talked about this idea, maybe you want to move off of him. In a retool, I think you had to, and we didn't see that happen. In a rebuild, he's one of the guys as a veteran presence and not stripping down the studs, I think you'd want around for a younger group to have a guy like that that's really embraced in the room, really embraced this market, and seems like a genuine dude. That's kind of where I'm at with DeMelo. And 700 games for a guy that doesn't have a standout trait is just a real impressive career for what he is in the NHL.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want, right? Somebody who's played in all positions. He's played top pairing, bottom pairing. He's played the big minutes. He knows how to do those things. He's a great ambassador for your team, for your city. It's exactly the type of person that you want around, bringing the new kids along.
Okay, let's go to your question then.
We just had a couple questions about kind of the core, and then like the so Brad, long-time listener, wants to know what we think happens with the core if these results keep up. And then kind of maybe tangentially, we've got Randall Michelle, who I don't think I've seen come in here before. So welcome in, Randall. She wants to know, what do we think it takes to get rid of Chevy? That is the only question, and what would it take? Brad agrees. He says, fire Chevy, and that DeMelo's been a stud for a third. Thank you all for joining us over on Facebook as well. So wanted to bring those questions in.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. We always focus so much on YouTube and Twitch. We got to remember our people over on Facebook. I don't think anything happens with the core unless a core piece asks out this summer. I think just based on all the messaging, they're going to take a shot at this next year. I think if you're a longtime listener, you know my thoughts on that pathway, and there's a lot to be concerned about. I do wonder how demoralizing this last stretch might get, that maybe we see that. As for Shoveldayoff, unless he decides to insult and offend Mark Chipman in some way that doesn't seem possible, because destroying his franchise this year isn't enough, apparently. Winning 4 playoff rounds in 10 years, in 15 years for Kevin Shoveldayoff, isn't enough. I think we're stuck with him. We're not even 12 months removed from Chipman saying publicly that he'd rather not try and build another GM relationship, and he's happy with Shoveldayoff, unless something drastically changes for one of the most loyal, or someone that looks at himself as a very loyal individual in how he runs his businesses. And it's not just the hockey team, some of his car businesses as well. I'd be stunned by that one. That's the one that I would truly wake up and go, holy shit, things are changing in Winnipeg. I don't see it. I don't see it.
Yeah, the only way Kevin Shoveldayoff isn't the GM of your Winnipeg Jets is if he decides to walk away, like Paul Maurice quit on the team, or like Bones couldn't take it anymore. That's the only way, is if he decides he doesn't want to do it and then retires or quits early. Beyond that, he's GM for life. The owners already told us.
As Ryland said, he'd have to shoot Chipman's dog, let's be honest. And even then, we're not sure.
Yeah, I'm still not sure.
On the same topic, though, I want to go to Hugh Jazz Vibes, because I think you can bring some context into this from the postgame. Hugh Jazz Vibes, keeping it along the same idea here. Hypothetical. It's the 26-27 season. Training camp is about to start. Who's the coach of the Winnipeg Jets? What did you see? Because I know this was something we talked about just before coming on. I hadn't seen it yet. What did we hear out of Scott Arniel, who continues, by my impressions when I watched the next day, feels like a dead man walking that's just done after every loss? A very frustrated individual. What did we hear from Scott Arniel postgame? And how does that play into what Hugh Jazz Vibes over on Twitch asks?
So I'll answer the question second. For what we heard today in the post game, have you ever gotten in trouble at like school or something? When you were younger, and you were trying at first to like explain your side of things, but after a while you just kind of give up and you just go, I don't know, whatever. That was Arniel tonight. He got 2 questions in a row about why the Jets have such terrible starts, why they start slow, both at the beginning of the game and also beginning of periods. And he hadn't really no answer for it, right? At this point, they've had that problem all year long, right? From game one, it's been an issue. And he's answered the question so many times that he just kind of gave up part of the way through the answer. By the second time, he goes, look, I don't know. I've told them, I've talked to them, I've harped at them at the beginning of every game. Maybe I'm just going to say nothing. Maybe I just going to say nothing to them now. And he just kind of trails off and mumbles because he's done. You could just see it. You can hear it in his answers. he talked about how they couldn't execute tonight. All the coverage goals, he just sounds broken and sad. And as for who's going to be the head coach at the beginning of the 2026-2027 season, it's going to be, damn it, Colin Hall, you beat me to it. The next head coach of your Winnipeg Jets will be Pascal Vincent.
That would signal to me the type of head coach I wouldn't mind having here if those core pieces start asking out and we're going young.
I will say there was a bit of a souring of the relationship when he left the org the last time.
There was.
So they will have to build some bridges, rebuild some bridges, rather. But I think
NHL head coach job, though.
That's what I'm saying. I think the lure of being an NHL head coach, just to have that on the resume to kind of start moving it up, right? I think will be enough to lure him out of the American Hockey League.
Archivist Athletica says, if it's Arneal, I might pull my hair out. Parmaline says, I think Arneal may have to fire himself. Chevy's going to have to try and sell on running it back, and Arneal will say he's resigning. I'd be surprised by that one, to be honest. I don't think we'll see a Rick Bowness, Paul Maurice out of Scott Arneal.
No.
Because
make them
Scott Arneal doesn't have the sway those two names had. Those two had actually built up careers without the Winnipeg Jets. Now, Paul was kicked out of the league, but he had still had a rep. Arneal will never get another chance behind an NHL bench if he walks from Winnipeg. I just can't see it. I can't see him quitting. Colin Hall, like you said, suggested the next coach will be Pascal Vincent. Really fascinating to me if you do go young, because he's actually a guy I do trust with development as a priority.
Yep. Given
his history with the Moose, and now he's with your Habs farm system, right?
Yeah, the Laval Rocket.
And clearly they've been bringing guys up at a pretty good level.
Yep.
Rihanna says Arneal fought for this head coach job, had one major year, and then has this craptastic second season. You can't make his luck up. It'd be interesting if both of his tour of duties were 2 years or under. Not a great look. Norm's looking for Ted Lasso behind the bench.
Yep.
Let's get the vibes going there. And Frosty Winnipeg says it could be Alan Vigneault. How old is he these days? There's a name I haven't seen in a while.
He's got to be in his 60s for sure, right?
Has to be. 64. I mean, that's younger than Bones coming in.
Yeah, that's fair. I actually thought he was going to be older than that. He's been coaching for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Real DFE says, I could see Cheveldayoff tying this season to Arneal and sending him down the road, maybe resign or be a fired scenario.
I wonder what Arneal even has left for a contract. I don't think they would have signed him
one more year
to a super long deal, right? So
I would have guessed 3 years.
I wonder if they only gave him 2.
I
wonder. I don't know.
Standard protocol tends to be 3 to 5, and I don't think he would have got 5.
He wouldn't have gotten 5. No way. Yeah.
No. So if you asked me this weeks ago, I would have probably scoffed at it a bit. And of the two of us, it's safe to say I've let Arneal off the hook more than you, per se.
A little bit.
I think it's safe to say I've protected Arnie a bit more.
Yep.
I am starting to wonder about it when you look at how defeated he truly is in the media.
Yeah.
And what that is a reflection of. Like this idea that he's not even going to talk to the guys before a game now. We might be approaching get locked out of a room scenario if this is the budding situation.
He'd be
or
2
maybe
for 2.
Arneal. So when I was in junior, we went on a bit of a losing streak, and we got locked out of our dressing room and had to practice outside. And the entire practice was just man makers and skating.
Yeah.
It was one of those times. It was time to whip us into shape again. Does he pull something like that?
Oh God,
trying
no.
to get their attention?
They would laugh at him. He does not have that. Not even a little bit.
I do think the hypothetical is more in play than I would have thought. Like I said, I believe in my heart of hearts, he was not wrong when he brought up personnel as a reason the other day.
Yep.
Which no matter what you're trying to do, if you bring up personnel being an issue, that reflects on one man's job in pro sports. Whether you mean it to or not, you get caught slipping. That was the first bit of things might turn here. And it's funny because in this market, loyalty is the sell, but you start turning on your boss a little bit, that's a problem. Then we see Chevys presser, and Chevy rarely leans in publicly. Now, whether Chevy's pushing that behind the scenes, at least publicly, Kevin Cheveldayoff sets himself up as the guy that wants the coach to play the youth in bigger roles. He wants to use the rest of the year to evaluate the organization. And here's where Arniel loses me a bit this week. And again, I know I've been the guy protecting him. But when you make a comment about personnel and your GM, regardless of where you think in their development, I'm not a Brad Lambert guy. I have time for Isak Rosén. I'm not a Brad Lambert guy. I'm okay with where he's playing, to be quite honest, because I think he's got to really show that he earns more.
Yep.
I think Rosén's ahead of him. But when you bring up personnel and you take that shot, and your GM then finds you two skilled young players that he expects you to coach up, find minutes for, and do your job as a coach and focus on that avenue, and we don't see it. And then he loses me on the personnel comment, where I still think he is right. I don't think any coach was getting this team to the playoffs this year, to put it pretty bluntly.
God, yeah. Agreed.
But when you do get new personnel, you have the worst game of the season the other day. We've heard him call this team embarrassing how many times? We've heard him call them fragile.
Yep.
We've heard him really take a strip off of this team most of the season. For him to then go into his coaching playbook, because you only have 3 real tools as an NHL coach these days, especially when you're making less money than most of these guys. You have the media, which we've seen him use, and I respect him for using it because we haven't seen that in a while. Bones, when he got really fired up, but Paul Maurice was always the excuse guy. So I respect when a coach uses the media. It hasn't turned. It hasn't worked, right? You want to use that tool as a bit of a sledgehammer.
Yep.
Hasn't worked despite him using it often. You have lineup changes. We don't see those. He's had a set lineup for 64 games. There is no trying virtually anything. And then you have ice time. And you could either send a message by benching a vet, which he did, to his credit, with Nino, pre-Olympic break. And that was a sizable name in that locker room, a respected guy, that I think that sends the message he was trying to do. But the other one is ice time in-game. And we don't see him adjusting there. So at some point, as much as the personnel's a problem, as Al Camino says, he looks lost right now. He just looks like a guy that's just lost, and does point out it's not like Chevy hired him, and there's that aspect of it all. But as much as I think he's been honest and said some important things publicly, he's only used the tools of the media. He hasn't gone after ice time. We haven't seen the big conversation. Morgan Barron, 4th-line center. I believe he's a bottom 6 guy, but he's put up 10 goals. He's 4th on the team in 5-on-5 goals.
Yep.
He's been stuck. We'll see where Rosén and Lambert continue to go, but they're probably stuck because he doesn't adapt. At some point, we do have to look at how Scott Arniel's managing this, and he's got to take a look in the mirror too. Despite personnel being a real problem, what is he doing to extract more from the personnel he's given or reading the game he's coaching? And I think he's falling short as this season goes on.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where 2 things can be true. One, the personnel is a problem, right? They don't have nearly the players that they need to compete with the top end of the league. And number 2, Scott Arniel has no idea what to do with the pieces that he does have. It's an inability both at the management and the coaching level, I think, to properly identify both the right kind of talent that they need and also where their flaws are. They've got blinders on for both of those things, and that doesn't lead to success, right? The thing Scott Arniel does well of, the assistants that he's hired, the system that they've implemented, when it's able to run well, when they've got the right players for it, like we saw last year, it's a pretty good system. It can work. They can run a good power play. They can run a good penalty kill. The issue then becomes, though, when things aren't exactly perfect. We talked about that all last year. When everything was good, it was great. That's why we saw career years out of all of the supporting cast. That's why we saw President's Trophy. But we warned that as soon as things were slightly not going in their favor, there wasn't a lot of flexibility or creativity to be able to change that, right? They were so rigid, and these are the lines, these are your roles, we're not moving from it. And, sure, I guess that was fine last year when you were winning every game, even though we weren't against it. It doesn't work when you're losing all the time and still not willing to make any changes, still not willing to try different things, still just being so set in these are the roles and we're sticking with it. We see it in terms of, overtimes. We see it in terms of roster selection. He doesn't know what to do with the pieces that he's given unless he's given exactly perfect, pieces to run that system.
So a couple comments on this in our chat. Choices TK over. By the way, Canucks won in a shootout.
Excellent.
So that works.
I'll take
Nashville
it.
got a point.
Yeah, Nashville gets a point. I'll take it.
Choices says on Arneal's success was more about a motivated team than his coaching ability. Team felt like they accomplished something last year, and combined with losses or loses, that edge isn't there. Old habits have started to creep back in. So I want to touch on two of those things. I think it undersells the job Scott Arneal did last year. So when I look at coaches, I give a rough idea going into the season where I think that team is going to be. I don't think anybody reasonable at the Winnipeg Jets at a President's Trophy level, and they did that from front to back.
Yep.
They were very, very consistent, and the special teams was top class. And coaches, in my opinion, implement special teams to a higher level than some of the 5-on-5 stuff.
Agreed.
You can have a good system, but if you don't have the talent, it's going to be hard, as we've seen this year. We've seen this system work, and clearly they didn't have the talent to play up to it. The Jets were also last year, which I think is a credit to Scott Arneal and the staff he built. He didn't stick to his buddies. Like, he actually did a hiring process. Davis Payne wasn't someone he was familiar with.
Yeah.
And comes in and hires him and lets him run the best power play in the league last year. Or I think Vegas passed him late in the year.
Maybe, yeah.
If I remember correctly. And if you broke the Jets down last year, in all 6 facets of the game, they finished above league average. I think that's a quality coaching job. If you ask me honestly, from a pure talents perspective to results perspective, I think in the 15 years of Winnipeg Jets hockey, Scott Arneal last year was the best coaching job we've seen. When you look at the Western Conference Finals here, Paul Maurice had everything. Everything you could ask for on a roster.
Yep.
And the first 21 games, he still wanted to fuck it up until Perreault and Lowry got hurt and made the lineup completely change with Kyle Connor getting called up and seeing that you could spread talent down and use Matthew Perreault down the lineup, who Colin Hall sees Rosane into as a younger version of, which would be a real big hit if we got a second coming of Matthew Perreault and what he meant during those times. I want to see him become a bit more of a driver. It's early in his career. I don't know if I'm going there quite yet. But that team was the best team in the NHL that year.
Yep.
And they got the Western Conference Finals, our pinnacle. But I think you could put Scott Arneal, maybe even Larry's dad, behind the bench with that group, and you would have had a really good year.
Yes.
I actually think, as far as bridging the gap between talent and results, last year was the best year. That being said, I think you're correct, and Palmerlane says it too. There's no imagination from Arneal with the lineup. We saw it last year, and it was easier to excuse, even though it was frustrating for us down the stretch, because the results were there. But we did not see lineup changes the entire season last year. You'd see the odd little winger switch, but there was no structural change to the lineup. And then we see this year, through 64 games of being a bottom 6 team, again, no structural change to how he configures the lineup at all. It's the I follow Velarde, and you hope everything works from there. To me, as the scout look puts it, a coach's job is to maximize the talent he has. They're not maximized. On one hand, I'd say last year was the best coaching performance. I'd also say at this point, it's hard to say this wouldn't be one of the lower ones we've seen this year when you see the drop-off and the lack of ability to adapt at all. I'm very curious about this conversation more than I was a month ago.
Yeah.
Coming into the season.
The last year's season and the 2017 season are kind of inverses of each other, where 2017 you had just a top to bottom solid roster, really good. Like you said, you could have had really any of the Jets coaches behind the bench for that run, and you probably would have had similar results. And then, as opposed to, last year, which the roster was still good, but maybe not as good, not reaching as quite a high. And really the failing last year came more so the fact that they weren't able to augment the overperforming group that they had, right? It's the fact that they didn't get that roster to that super high level. Really, I think is what ended up costing them. So it's interesting. Two different ways that you can kind of get there and get close to it, and just not have enough there. So yeah, it's really interesting.
On the 17-18 year, Colin Hall and Infinity Comment point out some of the dumb decisions Murray's made in the playoffs with like Hendrick, Sherratt, Beaulieu, and Morrow playing over guys like Enstrom. Kopp getting pulled because he looked at Lowry and Tanev as the drivers rather than Lowry and Kopp.
Yeah, I remember that.
There was problems there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's an interesting convo. I'm very curious where it goes this summer at this point. And Rihanna says, hey, he got creative once. He put Nyquist on the top line. He really shook it up.
That's right. We forgot about
Let's
that.
move in to the From Financial Face-Off at the hour mark today. Hey, we've been talking. We weren't sure where the show was going to go beforehand, folks. And we're now in. Just getting to the From Financial Face-Off. Let us know in the chat. Who is your From Financial Face-Off? What is the difference between the Rangers and the Jets? Where this continues to trend? Where the tank is going? Hey, they finished bottom 3. It's a lottery, but then they can drop no lower than 5th. These are the margins we're talking about here, folks.
Let's hit it.
Thanks for calling the landing strip. You're on the air. What would you like to talk about?
Right on. Phone lines are open. 1-204-800-0409. 1-204-800-0409. Get on the line. Give us a call. Let us know you're from Financial Face-Off. What was the difference today? What's the difference on the season? Or anything else you want to talk about?
Mikey, on this night, who is your From Financial Face-Off?
Mine was something we've talked about a little bit as the show's gone on. Just no ability to clear out any of the rebounds. So many second and third chances. 4 of the goals all came right in Hellebuck's face. The Jets just gave up that portion of the ice to the Rangers tonight, and it was painfully on display how badly they needed to get those pucks cleared out, and they just couldn't. So for me, that was the big difference tonight, was the fact that 4 goals all right in Hellboy's face.
So outside of partnering with a great family in the From Financial Face-Off with the From family, go give them a look on their Instagram and stuff. They really post some informative stuff that would bring value to your financial life. Outside of that, what I love about this segment is hearing different takes and what people notice within a game. So I'm going to dive in the chat, but I wanted to go to my text messages first, actually. Fat Tony 202 from Twitch reached out at the end of the second period, and I thought this was the perfect segment to talk about something like this. Said, good Lord, do teams ever have a pre-scout on the Jets now? Every team now knows as soon as the Jets are leaving the zone, they want to go wide across the ice with the puck, and the Demon is playing high off the winger. No gap, and the Jets player is just left standing still. And I think that was a very astute observation when you see what was happening in transition with this team and in the neutral zone with the Rangers. So I wanted to shout that one out. Going over to YouTube, Neil Dubeck's From Financial Faceoff 688. He got the tank commander.
Yep.
Might as well give him the From Financial Faceoff as well. That is Connor Hellebuck's save percentage on this night. Tough number. That's higher than the Jets' points percentage this year, though.
Oh, that hurts.
Infinity Comments from Financial Faceoff was the out-of-town scoreboard. A man after my own heart.
Yep.
Beautiful. Checking in at intermissions and seeing where the NHL was trending today. Phenomenal. Phenomenal theater. This was one of those nights. And the funny thing is, I came so close. I've been avoiding the sports betting. I don't need to get involved with it. I was so close to doing a parlay today, going to the game, and just taking the tank games. Should have done it. Should have done it. Rihanna says the From Financial Faceoff is the ref on that soft call with Velarde and the Rangers pouncing on it immediately. You know what? That's a good point to get to, and we didn't get to yet. That hook to start this game
Yep.
was a ridiculous call.
Yeah.
That's just a stick lift.
That was soft.
And the Rangers make no mistake with it, with Adam Fox putting on a blast, a $1.06 into the game. You're down 1-0. Like that one from Rihanna, as we had not gone to that point yet. Ridiculous call. Ridiculous call.
Yep.
But I don't mind. Rylan Medwicks from Financial Faceoff. Yeah, that draft's going to be looked at very poorly between Oliver Moore and Perreault. Rylan Medwicks from Financial Faceoff is Barlow over Perreault, who is playing on the top line today with the Rangers. Same draft class. Barlow's putting up 9 points in the AHL, 8 points, was it?
Yep, 8 points.
Rylan Medwick also had a second one saying, from Financial revised net front breakdowns, and those were clear on those goals. And that's what's funny about this. I want Helly to get a big save, and he gave them nothing. And you mentioned the rebounds. But when 3 of the 5 come from tips and backdoors, it's also clearly breakdowns going on in front of him.
Yep.
No excuses after what we watched him do against Team Canada. He's got to make some big stops, given him the pedigree we hold him on.
100%.
But the net front coverage was definitely a problem for the Winnipeg Jets tonight.
Yeah, definitely.
Choices does point out I would have lost with the Preds, so I'm glad I didn't bet. Colin Hall from Financial Faceoff. Just wanted to give a shout out to Jimmy Snuggerud for single-handedly winning the Blues a game. Hey, if Jimmy Snugs wants to have a bit of a breakout down the stretch for the St. Louis Blues,
Let's go.
sign me up. They have the tiebreaker when games are equal with 3 additional regulation wins. Let's have St. Louis go draft like 8th overall before they tear it down. Let's get ahead of them on the upswing here.
Right?
There's a chance out now. Back-to-back Sunday. We got a matinee Saturday versus Colorado.
Yep.
And Colorado might break their soul. Their soul might be broken tonight.
That's
But
gonna be a tough
Colorado might be like, that might do it.
Yeah.
That might do it.
Yeah.
And then they come in the
Scott
next day
Arniel
with
might
St.
cry at
Louis
the
coming
podium.
into town.
Scott Arniel might cry at the podium after what happened Saturday.
I hope so. And then the next day on a back-to-back, after what might be 3 straight losses, demoralizing ones potentially, St. Louis might sneak in here on Saturday or Sunday and take that jump. Something to watch for this week.
I hope you're right. That St. Louis one, though, just feels like one of those games where, like, the top line scores, like, 2 goals each, even though they get, like, destroyed on the numbers.
Yeah, they might. We'll see. Norm says the From Financial Faceoff was the banana peel with DeMelo's name on it.
Yeah.
Hard to argue. For me, that was the play that ended that game. And it ain't chances of the Jets tying it. They go up 5-3, 4-on-2, backdoor goal. I like that one from Norm. Real DFVs from Financial Faceoff is no fan willing to part with a timely beer on the ice to fire up the team. We didn't get the spark. We did not get the spark. I got to say, being at the rink today, that was the most dead I've seen that arena.
Yeah.
That was a tough one tonight for Original 6 team. A lot of empty seats there tonight, too.
Yeah. It
Not
was
good.
noticeable on TV how empty the building felt.
Oh, there was no vibe in there. None. That was one of the tougher ones for me. I guess from a fan perspective, that one was tough. Archivist Athletica on the Tony point says, there's lots of film on a squad when you don't change the lines. That
Yup.
plays in. Norm also says the From Financial Faceoff is 11 saves for Helly, Mr. 688. There it is.
Yep.
Colin Hall's secondary From Financial Faceoff was Rosane does a really good job at sneaking his way into scoring lanes and spots for a guy his size. It's how he got into position to tip the shot and is a part of how he will score. Like that projection
Agreed.
from Colin Hall.
Agreed.
Because as we talked about off the rip, those are getting to the scoring areas. You could see he's looking for offense. He can clearly skate. There's areas you want to see him round out in. But to get to that area of the ice is where you're going to be successful in this league. And I think that was a positive step. Really like that from Colin.
Yep, absolutely. Can't wait to see what he's going to look like with Perfetti.
One day, buddy.
One day.
Maybe next year.
When Vincent's
Neil
coach.
DeBeck's Financial Faceoff. Chaz Lucius recording 0 shots on net tonight was the difference.
Yep. Set us back.
Infinity comments, early guesses is the Colorado game will be like the 3-2 loss, getting outshot 40-15, and then they'll get shut out on Sunday.
Oh.
Sign me up.
Yep.
Palmer Lane's From Financial Faceoff is the Jets scouting team is terrible. It plays into a lot of why they're here.
Yup.
T. Conopoli jumps on the From Financial Faceoff 625% train. For me, on this night, I'm going to go where Infinity Common went. The joy I had in such a dead game to look at my phone at intermission and see every team I wanted to be winning, pairing it with that third period. And again, this is what, 5 of 6 games? A goal in the first 2 minutes of the third?
Yep.
This team in third periods is just a write-off. To go into that third, seeing the scores I was seeing and watching what developed, this is a happy Nik tonight. This is what I want. We're 18 games there. We're thinking about tomorrow, and there's a real shot. We're going to find our way into the top 5, especially if this weekend goes bad. It sucks to cheer against your team. This is not a fun place to be. But this weekend goes bad, expect the wheels to come off, I think. You're starting to see it with the bad habits from the top players. You're seeing it in Hellbuck's performance. I think we're there already, and I think the death nail, if it wasn't last game on Tuesday, it's going to come this weekend.
Yeah, I have to believe that the guys in the room have ears, eyes, maybe not a functioning brain, some of them, but enough that, somebody else around them can tell them the math because they probably can't do it. And they know that they're not making the playoffs this year, right? I don't think realistically there's a lot of guys in the room right now going, we're still in this, and actually believing it, and you're starting to, I feel like, see that maybe come out a little bit on the ice with the play, especially with the comments that Barron made during the intermission last game, right? Doesn't look like we're playing for anything out there. It just, the Hellebuck stuff as well, right? All of these highs that he's gone through in the last 12 to 18 months, he's probably just done right now, which is why we're seeing, at minimum 1 bad goal each game, only 11 saves today, that type of stuff. They know they're real people, I think, at the end of the day, some of them, and they have to know the reality around them. So, especially if a bad loss happens Saturday, you may start to really see the wheels fall off.
And then that's when things get really interesting.
Yep.
I think that gets really interesting.
Rihanna says, real quick, sorry to cut you off, but they say, Mikey, tell that to TSN. The hype video before the game was Jets in playoffs. I will say, I also harp on the media for talking about playoffs all the time. TSN is trying to get people to keep tuning into broadcasts. TSN needs people to still watch the game on TV so that they get the advertisements out and shit. They're going to keep saying the word playoffs until they are mathematically completely eliminated. They're going to keep harping that at us because it's TV. They need you to tune in and watch, and the Jets don't offer anything outside of that right now. I'm
going down with the ship.
I'll
be watching, baby.
I'll still be watching. All of our fans here on the show will still be watching, I'm sure. But TSN's got to keep pumping the hope of tune in because you never know, they may go on a run here because they need you to keep watching the games. That's I do it too. I'm trying not to give them such a hard time because that's their job. That's how they make their living. So I'm trying to give them a pass. Now with local media, I would maybe press a little bit more if they're still hyping you up, telling you that there's a chance at playoffs. That person's also trying to sell a newspaper or whatever they write for, I think. But there's quite a few of the media covering the Jets now, at least, that have kind of realized where we are in this cycle of the season and are very realistic. So, I think that's why the broadcast is doing it.
They say the Canucks are still in it.
Yeah, right, because mathematically or whatever.
Yeah, a few thoughts on this. Neil DeBeck's joy during this game came from Sabres Twitter. That was fun.
Oh,
tuning in after the game to seeing the meltdowns of Stanley Shen. Loved it. Rihanna also does say, I think my dad was annoyed with how much I talked about tanking for the draft, applauding the Rangers for their work, even though my dad isn't opposed to the tank. It's a tough situation. It's a hard thing as a fan. I think we're all equally nuts in a way, but I think we're nuts in the way we're looking at reality. And sports is supposed to bring us hope in something exciting, and this team's just not. Frosty also says it's 2019 all over again, a lead going into the third and losing. Choices TK says, like the 76ers in the Sam Hinkie era, when you tank, you have to trust the process. Are we going to get back into the Chevy trust the process? mantra.
Yeah, trust the process.
Yeah, apparently I might have to call into a radio show tomorrow. That's what the people are asking. We'll see if I do it. Norm says, what's highest draft pick the Jets have fucked up? Can we do better? Yes, we can. They got the best of the years out of Laine, to their credit.
Yeah.
It didn't go well at the end, but they got the best years out of Patrick Laine.
Yeah, that's still such a fumble. I can't believe that didn't work out. The kid was,
Given where his career went, I don't know.
Oh, no, his career, I mean. You know what I mean? It sucks that it didn't work out better than what it did. There was so much hope there.
Yeah. Let's, you want to move into a tank sim?
Let's do it.
Is there 3 stars tonight? I don't know. Anyone
No.
got 3 stars tonight?
The third star is William Eklund with that sick goal of the year tonight for San Jose. Did you see it yet?
Ooh, I haven't yet.
100% goal of the year. There's a slow-mo that they put out of it. One of the coolest things I've ever watched. And Gabe Velarde gets a star for the Lego because he's awesome. And I'll give Rosane a star because he scored a goal tonight. The rest of the team sucks.
Hey, what do you think of this scouting report talking about Buffalo Sabres Twitter today? Stanley seems like a pretty smart player whose hands and skating are just so far behind it doesn't really matter. Anyways, 3 stars
Still
tonight.
too generous, but pretty good.
3 stars tonight. St. Louis Blues?
Yep. Yes.
New York Rangers?
Yep.
And who's right there too?
We'll give the maybe the Leafs.
Let's give the Leafs.
The big-
And Predators.
Oh, Blackhawks?
Yeah,
Blackhawks?
actually, Leafs got 2.
Yeah, Leafs got 2.
The teams that we needed to win for us to look even worse. 1. Those are the 3 stars today. All of them collectively.
Exactly.
There's more than 3 this year. I can't believe we run the slate tonight.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
Pretty much right
14
across
games
the board.
set.
That couldn't have worked
And
out
every
better.
result we could feel pretty good about.
Yep. Again, if you care about the long-term future of your Winnipeg Jets, you should be praying that they get a high draft pick this year. They need it.
Neil DeBeck says, hey, I tanked Sim to #1 pick yesterday. Let's see if
all
we're going to do that tonight.
Ready? In 3, 2, 1. Hey, number 2. Jets move up 4 spots. The Rangers move up 3. Rangers 1, Jets 2.
I will take that all day. Bring me Stenberg or McKenna at the top of this draft.
Yep.
And all of this has been worth it. We
100%.
finally won one. Brother, look at the night we just had for Team Tank.
Right.
This is a sign. You want to believe in the signs and what the world's telling us right now? This was the biggest game of the year, given the heads-up Rangers and where the standings were for Team Tank. This was a must-lose. We get the out-of-town scoreboard, and we finally, for the first time since the Olympic break, get up into the lottery. Man, leaving tonight, I'm feeling pretty freaking good. So the hockey gods are with us.
You know,
something's going.
As you said earlier, Nick, we won't go down with this ship. We won't put our hands up and surrender. There will be no white flag above our door. We're in love and always will be with the Tank.
As Scotty O'Neill is in love with his roster configuration. Folks, we'll be back Saturday, early evening.
You got it.
3 o'clock start. Colorado. Again, this might be their makeup game on some of those teams. This Tank, the pedal might be down here. We're playing some real teams. This weekend could cripple the Winnipeg Jets. And then we'll be also back for a back-to-back Sunday afternoon after a 2 p.m. game with the St. Louis Blues. I hope you have a great Friday tomorrow. Don't work too hard, you know. It's one of those mailed-in Fridays. Get through your weekend, and we'll be back to talk Winnipeg Jets Tank commanding efforts down the stretch versus the Colorado Avalanche. We'll see you Saturday.
Right on. Good night, everybody.